Okay. Dearest higher self, I call you in for this session to bring forth this understanding, this insight, greater clarity pertaining to this subject of physical passion, lovemaking, hieros, gamos, and so forth. As we have been talking about this morning, in communication about this morning, and let's bring it into clarity of understanding also, so we can share this and open up more self-knowledge and recognition, and also progress in evolution, in our own evolution, thereby. Yes, to be able to awaken and embody our souls evermore in the support of awakening recognition of God within us, soul, who we truly are. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Okay, so connect back into your dream that you were in the whole night with this beloved being in the dream, and this interrelation brought forth that feeling of physical passion, right? That was like it came up again, it flared up again, even though it was subtle. It's very subtle, because you've already worked through so much. But it's still there. And you're still a little bit confused about it. And so the confusion comes in because there is still desire. There is still the desire of the flesh, as we say. There is still physical desire of this, and of this passion, of this physical passion. And when you feel into it, it's that wonderful feeling of you and your beloved equally being drawn to each other with great passion. And also it is that that sense of wanting to, like hunger, and wanting to devour each other, or consume each other, right? Words are, of course, they will always be challenging to we can only like work around it. And where that comes from is the desire or the longing to be one. And that longing is in the physicality of the body. So it is in also the root. It's in the root chakra. And it is when that passion comes, with the there's also the muscles are involved, sweating and when it happens, when it actually happens. This wasn't in the dream, but the dream is brought this cellular memory forth in you, and touched upon it in a subtle way to remind you that there is still some of that left within you. So there is a hunger. It is like also a craving for something, and quenching that hunger. But it's so much more than a craving. With hunger, it involves your whole being. It involves your whole body and all the faculties of your body. All your senses are involved, and all your senses are grasping and pulling that other person in to be as close as possible, because it is the desire to merge. And that desire is when that passion is, otherwise it wouldn't be passion. Otherwise it would be pure lust. It is fueled by love. And when it's pure lust, it is then, so when no heart is involved, it's not passion. And that is then when it falls, that's when it falls even deeper into the root and is disconnected from the heart. And that is this lust. That is one of the 7 sins. And again, sin, we will get into that in a, you will get into it in a later, it only means being without God, not being in alignment with life, with the life-giving torus of the divine. It has fallen off of those currents. It is without its own spin, and so it's addicted to spin and so forth. We're not getting into that, right? It's addicted to keep itself alive, but it needs to be able to metabolize. It needs the fallen energy. So that's what makes it into addiction, because it can never be enough. It cannot hold itself up in the life. So from dissolution, and also it is broken. So that's how it falls out of the torus, is when there is that inverted spin that spins out of the torus of life. And so that breaks that open. It breaks out of that whole system, that holistic system. And because it's broken, it's missing itself. And that's also what makes it addicted. But it is addicted to the same energy that made it spin down. That's the addiction. Yeah. Okay, we're not getting more into that, because we're going to stay here with the passion that is infused. Passion is infused by heart energy. And it is that physical. It is that in the flesh, longing to merge. And at the same time, lust is a part of it. So it's not disconnected from the heart, so lust is a part of it. It's not just lust, but the lust is a color within that color. It is a flavor within that color. It is focused, has also a focus in the physical, in the root chakra. Okay, now, how are we gonna get to this? All right, hold on. Let's slow down for a moment. Let's slow down. Yeah. So it goes through the mouth. There's that energy coming through the mouth, because the mouth is like the top version of the bottom version of the root. It's that open. It's the taking the other in. And also them taking you in. So it's through the love, it's a giving and receiving. Through the love, it's a giving and receiving. Yes. And then all the chakras are, when you are making love, the chakras are also exchanging, giving and receiving. The heart is what brings that all into coherence, into harmony, into a rhythm. And that rhythm is within the lovemaking what builds the waves, what builds the toruses. Yes? Okay. Of course, also in the physical lovemaking, when the physical body or the chakras are not cleared, when you have not come back to yourself, where there is still imbalance, where there is still distortion and trauma held, charge held within the chakras, that is also exchanged. That is, yes, everything is exchanged. Yes. As a sound vibration. So if there's none of that within you, and if you have enough compassion and love for the other, and of course that also means for yourself, it depends on how you meet your own charge and distortions and trauma when it shows up, when you feel it. And also thoughts and beliefs when they show up. If you can hold space for that, you can hold space for the other, and then it doesn't stick. If there is something that resonates with you, within you, that is similar, then that will be a magnifying glass onto that. Now there is this push-pull in the situation, in the position that you are now. So, and that was expressed in last night in the dream time. And that is the position of, on the one hand, wanting this passionate merging of the physical bodies in the dream. There is that wanting and longing there. And that is the longing of the physical body. And then there is the longing of merging that comes from the heart. And that makes the passion, that concoction makes that feeling of passion. And you have, and this is particularly here also in this area, in these senses, because we take the other in. That's the throat chakra, also like this. And it's also, we kiss each other, we give love through this area. We take in the scent, and then we like to give love through kissing. That is also yes, and it goes through the throat. It's as if we drink the other. It goes through the throat and then into our heart. And of course, this has always, and this will always, hold on. But it accelerates the spin of our chakra. So it's going to bring up, it brings up the distortions that are still, the charge that is still held. It magnifies that and brings that to the surface faster. Now we are still approaching the actual, what we are, this what we are bringing forth today, this very particular junction that we are at. And it is a collective theme, obviously, that we hold. So we're still moving around it and seeing how we're going to thread it. And, you know, this is not something that's coming. It's just allowing that to come together. Well, I'm not saying it, yeah, I'm bringing it in. My higher self is bringing it forth through me. Yes, we are on a little bit of slippery grounds here because we have never shared this intimate before. So that is also one reason. And now there is enough understanding and scope of this topic. And then through all the dream experience last night, that yes, it is now a sweet spot of time to share this. So there is, as we said, there is this push-pull. So on the one hand, wanting to dive in and have that full experience of passion in the flesh. And on the other hand, there is something else. So are we going to go already into the something else, or are we first going to stay with passion still? Well, the other, yes, one more thing about the passion. The other part of it is that in your life, there has never been and you were asking us about it, there has never been a true expression, like a full scope expression, a full satisfying expression and experience of this passion. There was always distortion, there was always something that was off. Either the heart wasn't enough involved, or too much distortion there where the heart was involved, and the physicality didn't line up, the rhythm didn't line up, and it was just, it couldn't get in sync, it couldn't find, build these waves. You couldn't find each other, and there are many reasons for that, but what you're standing with left at this point is, well, I can't move over into the spiritual yet because there is still hunger left, because I have never experienced it. And oh my goodness, wouldn't it be sweet to have that experience of this on a physical level, of this passionate lovemaking that is full and that is round. Correct? Yes. So it's like that's what's keeping you, why you can't fully let go of it yet, even though you already know and you're already like with more than one, it's more of you is already on the other side, which we will explain in a moment. But you still have that foothold in that in that physical desire. Old, if you will, because it's more like we're moving out of that. Also collectively we're moving out of that in the ascension we're moving out of that, and we'll explain that in a moment, how that is not a loss. So you asked us, why was I never allowed to have that experience at least once? Because the one time that you got close, because it was the love of your life, it was true love, and everything was aligned and harmonious. But in that case, there wasn't enough time. There was never time and space to, never enough time and space because this kind of passion to to allow that to be able to blossom fully, come to its full expression, that physical passion, it needs time and space. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that wasn't given. Yeah. And then something else came in where life was, so to speak, life pulled the plug on that union. Life pulled the plug on that relationship. And so before that could take place, there was a split that happened on the physical level. Yes. So yes, so you never came into the full experience of it, and you asked us why. And here's our answer. And so, of course, we are also sharing this because this will be many people's experience. Many will be able to relate to this. So first of all, the relationships where the heart wasn't truly involved, where it was mostly even though you may have thought that you were in love or had a major crush or whatever, it wasn't truly the heart wasn't, it's more like an illusion. And it seemed to be the heart, but when in reality it was about a more basic need. It was lust. And then all the conditioning around it that made it seem like there is also love, true love, when there was no true love. Because how can you have true love for someone else when you don't have it for yourself? And when you then also attract others that have the same kind of situation going on. Not only that, but every single relationship in your life was a key to unlock yourself. To bring to the surface, to through the reaction, through that backdrop of the other and the interaction with the other, bring forth all within you that wasn't yet, or that was not in alignment, that wasn't in sync, that wasn't in harmony. It was out of tune, it was distorted. Yes, all that which is in your DNA, that laden, distortion, heavy DNA, full of charge, that you came in to pick up and to recalibrate and realign, to save this bloodline. That's just one part of it. There's so many aspects, of course, to this symphony and to this story, but that is one important part of it. And in order to pick it up, or as we pick it up, it has to be activated. And it activates as it is coming forth and being shown, and it receives that from the other, that activation by resonance. And yes, by resonance. So the other is bringing to you what is in your DNA. That is what we call that, or is called that reflection, which is in truth, it's resonance. Same, and they go into resonance, and then that attracts each other. And that's when it comes up and it gets processed, and that's the drama, of course, also. But it's messy and it's entangled and all of this. But that is how, by being in the middle of this mess, how it gets sorted, how it gets, because it's brought into awareness. That is the light of the awareness, is what begins to put that into recalibration, to put it back into, bring that back into an organic flow, the natural organic flow, to realign. It is the awareness. It is holding that in the light of, aha, I see. And also, it is bringing forth the charge to be reabsorbed. And that means to uncharge, and that means to release the charge of it, because it's stuck, right? So to bring it back into the organic flow that is the torus of life, out of its stuckness. And that's soul energy. This is soul energy, you could say, of your ancestors, but it's your own soul energy that is held in that DNA, because you are holding it in, you are taking on that DNA, you are embodying that, you are holding that. That stuckness, that resonance is then in your body. But as you release it, as you release the charge, and that's the healing, yes, reabsorb, bring it back home, bring it into the light of awareness. You release it for all the generation, the whole bloodline, for the whole generation. And as you know, DNA speaks to itself at a distance, which means distance is not a factor. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. DNA is like, it's the same DNA, like the same whatever particle of whatever that is the same, that is passed on, is also same time, same space. It always communicates with each other. But of course, everyone who's holding the DNA brings their own soul DNA into the mix, and so has also their own unique perspective and spin on it. So that doesn't take away from the other's work, but it does make it easier for everyone else that holds that same DNA. Right. You just have to, you clear it within you, and that's your angle of it. So having said that, if, and as you know, as we, especially when there was no true love, it was unsatisfying, and at the same time it was very addictive, because that is coming from that physical lust. And at the same time, you're in the illusion, because that's the conditioning also, and because there hasn't been at that point, you weren't in the know of it all, because now you have this scope, at this time, having had all this experience in your life, which brought you, to the top of the mountain. So you have that scope now, but obviously you didn't have it then, going through all these relationships, or also just acquaintances or affairs that were not even relationships, but there is a relation, there is a relating, there is another, and you have something going on there, and we're talking now about physical lust and passion and lovemaking and merging and union and all of that. So if that part would have been any better, say Okay, if that part would have been like the lust part, let's say, if that would have been satisfying, it was hard enough for you to leave as it was because of, you know, all the entanglement and the codependency, that codependency, yeah, and emotional codependency, that believing that you need another, and that you need another's approval, love, and whatsoever. You fall into, and all these programs, they were just like rampant, and there was very little consciousness of them. So the louder they are, the less consciousness there is of them, the more entangled you get, the harder it is to leave. And it was hard enough as it was, and messy enough as it was. Now imagine it would have been satisfying on that level. It would have been a greater magnet. It would have been harder to let go. So that's one big reason why that never happened. Of course, also why it didn't happen is because of all the distortions, and so the harmony couldn't happen on that level either. So there are several reasons for why you have never had that experience. Yeah. Now you ask me, well, what about, you know, why couldn't I have had it at least with, you know, where there was true love, just once at least, you know? Okay, so we say this. Mornakia tostonu naita takuto ishtia maru. Okna arnikna up ashnukno up ane tatashno nuyata ahaneoto. Bahan oknu niakiatanu usnaye via bataru usno batana yeteadoru bahai na no. I halu uho nei nakumut na ahan eltu ustai inkant or. Nehebe en harduk ur jashnigni dev umku uttahari. De bere ik niet aanhoeknoed ardor de hev maknoer jishnaknoer maknai tikta aru uchotashtaku totoshtiadu. You see, the heart lifts, it is naturally for the giving. The heart in its love, it is for the giving. And I was still okay for the getting, because I was forgetting. I was in the forgetting. I didn't know who I was. And I was, it is a need. Yes, you are still in a need, and you were still in a need. And that need could not be met or satisfied or fed. That hunger that was so great to merge. And here is now where we take the bridge. Because that hunger to merge that was lodged or located in your physicality, in your body, however, could not be received, experienced, and fulfilled on that level that you were at. And on the level of, that is the level of, where you are still at that level, so deeply entrenched, identified with the physical body, identified with the programs in the egoic mind of the physical body, of the ancestral DNA, and that and of all the emotional programs that you've experienced since you were born. So that didn't allow for that, first of all. Second of all, to have that fulfilling experience, which you focus on the physical body. We have to, however, leave the physical body. We have to open up in our hearts wide enough in order to connect all the other chakras into the subtle bodies, because that longing to merge, that longing to be so close, which comes from love. But here's the thing, when it comes from true love, the longing isn't a physical need. So it is not anymore this passion of, this pulling in and breathing in and devouring, and it's like a need. It is not that anymore. It is not that kind of passion anymore, because it doesn't come from a need. This is where the bridge is. This is the difference. It doesn't come anymore from this, which is consuming. It's the flame that consumes. And that's also how we lose our energy. That is why we lose our energy through lust, because in the lust also, it is outward, so that the buildup that happens pretty much only happens in the first chakra, and then there is that climax, and then there's a few boom, 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 a few pulses of the toruses, of those waves, of those spins that have gathered into a life of its own. Yeah, so self-organizing, and it spins a couple times and then it falls. It can't hold itself because it's not connected into, it can't be picked up by the other chakras. And even though there's not a all or nothing there's always something in between. Some currents get picked up, some of them can rise, but as soon as there is that outward, which goes in the it goes into not opposite in that sense, it goes out, it doesn't rise up, it goes down and out. Yes, that climax, that energy is literally, it goes out and then it dissipates. Of course, that is also what is feeding then, if we have entities or so. That's what they want, because that goes into, they can feed off of that. Yes, not when it's love infused. What is love infused, some of it will be able to find its way, trickle up, that energy. But if it's the more, whatever is lust, whatever lust part it is, that is what makes that feeling of that climactic, self-organizing pulsation of expansion in the first chakra. At the same time, the connection that is made is it goes out. It doesn't go and build and connect to the spiritual realm, yourself, your soul, your higher self, your greater self. And it doesn't build or heal or purify any of the other chakras. It is simply a relaxation within the first chakra, which is, especially when that in that moment, that feels there is a certain satisfaction there, especially when you hold a lot of fear and a lot of insecurity and unsafety and so forth, when you hold a lot of trauma in that chakra. Which is why people who have been sexually abused have an addiction there. And if you have at all any kind of picked up any kind of sexual abuse, there's an addiction there, and which is why oftentimes people who have had, that topic in their life, that theme in their life, will turn it around and make it into like almost a profession, or it plays a role. It plays a role in their lives. It takes an important place in their life, because the addiction is quite, is driving it. But of course, it's then. You were not aware that it was an addiction, and yet it was driving you. Yes. And there was always that dichotomy, because about feeling ashamed for the lust and the addiction, that need that was there in the first chakra. Great shame, great. And that's also what, of course, not only your own, but also what you took on, a lot of shame about it. And then, yes, and then that dichotomy about the heart, how do you bring that into balance? How do you bring that purity in the heart of love into balance with the lust and the shame? When there is such a discord and such a disconnect there, such a disconnect was made, that was already in your DNA, what you took on through that lineage that had so much heavy sexual abuse and distortion in it. So how do you merge that? How do you bring that into, back into balance? And that is a process. That is a process. Because the shame is also then lends itself to not liking yourself, and not wanting to see, pushing it down, pushing it away, and also self judgment and self-hatred and not like you're not worthy, and all of this, it just adds all a symphony within that distortion. And that's a lot of charge. That's a lot of pressure and energy and charge. And so that on top of it, so it's like a self-perpetuating, a downward spiral, self-perpetuating, where it's like it wants to discharge, but the discharge is never going to heal it. It's just going to make it more hungry. But that's the addiction, is to discharge, and that discharge going out. Yes. But then you're feeding entities, and you're actually making it, building up more charge, you're actually making it worse in that sense. And your addiction even grows, Yeah. At the same time, however, this is also what happens as you go through this process, this experience of, it having a hold over you, it driving you, that addiction, and then that, that loop, being in that loop of self judgment and shame about it, and all of this, and really being, oh my gosh, in the throes of this, between the heart and the first chakra and the root. This really, really brings it into awareness. Yeah. And this is what, even though it makes it stronger and the addiction builds and so forth, what happens is, at the same time, there's more and more awareness of how this is not what you want, and of what you really want. And it comes to a point where you're like, I've been there, I've done that. I don't want this anymore. It's so unsatisfying, because you realize that the more that you that you're caught in this loop, in this prison, and in this addiction, and that you go about it, that it has its power over you, it has force over you, you realize that you want to break free. You realize that it's making everything worse, making your life worse, like with any relationship, with any drug. You come to the point, as you fall for it, and you fall deep, over and over and over and over again, you come to that point where you have it in you to say, okay, I don't want this anymore. And you have it in you to pick yourself up and to make a choice. Yeah. So it actually exhausts itself. Yeah. And when you, for example, when you were in India, and anyways, all the guru, that what you watch, the gurus and the teachings of the gurus, and when we're in India in this ashram, and you went to these so-called satsangs, it was always this: stay away from desire, don't fall for desire. And it was always a denying of this that was there, of the elephant in the room, always a denial of that part of us, of that part of you, me, whatever, that, and all of the above. Yeah, of course. So, yeah, it's always sometimes difficult with the pronouns and with the labels and everything. Okay, with that part of us, I like us, that that has that feels that, And the thing is, your experience was that very clearly, if you suppress it, it gets worse. It really, really rages if you suppress it. So you found a way for yourself, without hurting anybody else, to allow it and to experience, to let it, to go with it, without hurting anyone else, because you were open in communication. At least you never made promises or that you couldn't keep, or lied or anything like this, so that the others, they knew where they were at with you. Yeah. So that doesn't mean you have to fall out of integrity if you follow this drive, this addiction, if you let it have its hold over you. Because your experience was that, again, that if you denied yourself, it would overroll you. If it would grow into such a beast that at some point you lost control. And this was not just your experience, even though you never lost control in the sense that you were never untrue to someone else. You were always true and honest and open. Yes. So you didn't lose your integrity. That's good. But what you also experienced was you traveled quite a bit. You've met many people that this was, especially in those realms where, and you hear this in the documentaries about many gurus and so forth, how their position is exploited, how on the outside there is this image of, it's a certain portrayal of a certain purity, and then on the inside there are these secrets of where there's like weakness, falling into exactly that which they say not to do, which they talk about, don't fall for your desires, or like, do not commit that sin, which is lust, right? So stay away from lust. Oh, just say no. Oh, just say no. Well, if it were that easy, it wouldn't be an addiction. And if you're still in the throes of it, just say no doesn't work. Doesn't, you can try for a while, but how long does it work? Until it breaks. It will always break. And you've seen people, priests, people who have this like, oh, I have to be pure and can't give in to my desire and all of this, how they broke. And then how they, in their minds, okay, so now specifically, for example, this young priest, the expression was, as you asked, but you are a Catholic priest. As he breached your boundaries. And you asked him, whoa, no. That is not welcome. You are a Catholic priest, so you felt safe with him, but and then his answer was, I am only human. I am only human. Yes. And it is exactly this setting yourself up, it is this denial of what is within us, this denial of the addiction and the lust, exactly. Lust is a form of addiction. So it is because addiction is always because it's broken and it's seeking to be whole in all the wrong places. The only thing that can heal addiction is soul. Soul is what makes us whole. That is love. That is the divine. That is ourselves where we are not two, where we are not divided. And as we go, however, about more and more and more of the same, of whatever the addiction is, shopping, eating, sex, drugs, rock and roll and all that jazz. Money. Greed is an addiction. Yeah. It all comes from poverty of soul, of the loss of soul, hunger for self. Am I still recording? Yes. So, how to bring that, how to raise that, because lust is not organic, it's not natural to us, it is a part of the distortion. And that it's part of the inverted 3D already, and we are made to lust. We are conditioned to lust. We pick it up already through the trauma from our ancestry, and the whole system is built up that way, because this is also what is bringing our energy outside of us and feeding the even lower discorporate energetic realms that they feed off of this energy, and we lose energy that way. And also, if we were not to have lust, but if we were to bring it, which we will talk about now in a moment, we were to bring it up again into the living organic oneness of being, to then be able to truly experience oneness with another in the merging, but that cannot happen with the focus on the physical, then we would rise in love. Love would rise us up. We would rise in frequency. We would rise in timelines, and they would have no more hosts. The parasiticals would have no more food. So, no, because we're also the ones that are the creators of their realm. They cannot create, so they would dissolve very quickly. Yes. And all the ones, it is the parasitical ones, the fallen ones that are still corporate, but that have fallen so low, that are not capable anymore of creating their own realm, that are in the need of others' energy to keep their existence, because they're not ascending, because they would then instantly have to come into a detox, and they fell so low that they're like running away from that detox. Just like it's so hard when you know, apparently, this is not my experience, but well, it's my experience with food. Yes, for example, with food, but let's also, especially when you take hard drugs, the detox is so hard. And that's why the really hard drugs that are very, very toxic for the body, instantly after, that's why that they make you addicted like the first time, some of them, like after the first time, because it's instantly, you need more of that in order to not go into the body's detoxing process of that toxin. And that's really awful. You know? Yeah, so that's also what keeps that. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so there's still some of that left in you, and you say to us, if I would have only have had that satisfied, I could let that go. That wouldn't be there anymore, or you know, I could let that go. And we say to you, now let's go back into that. It is quite a complex situation. So there is a switch that needs to be made, in order for that scope of fulfillment that you were seeking. And because you know nothing else, because you only knew the physical passion, you were seeking that merging and the fulfillment on the physical level. And you ask yourself, why couldn't you at least allowed me to have that experience once? Because it is your idea that it is possible to have this fulfillment while you are focused in the body, even when, you know, especially, or yes, you do understand that the heart has to be connected, otherwise, you know, into the root, otherwise there's no passion. And when there is only lust, it is never satisfying, and it is never enough. That you already know. And there's always something, you know, when it's not connected to the heart, that is like just icky about it, you know, or like, there's shame about it. And you also have experienced that is not how the healing, that's not how it can heal and come into. Well, first of all, it has to reintegrate with the heart and reintegrate thereby with all the other chakras. That can only happen over the heart, over love. You know, having love for yourself, that you've gone through all of that. Having compassion for these feelings within you, not suppressing them, not pushing that part of you away. You have to, in order to heal it, you have to embrace that and love it back home. And that you can only do when you have understanding for why is it there? How does this work? Why am I feeling this? Why do I behave this way? So we have to bring it back in the heart. And now we say to you that That is exactly the process that was happening through everything that you've experienced. And that what you were seeking, this merging, could never happen on that focus that you had, that you still had, how you were still locked into the physical body. For this fulfillment, that is also, it pours into the physical body, or you can also say it pours through the physical body into the non-physical, but it can only happen in the activation, the opening into the subtle body, into the soul body, with the oneness of your soul, with yourself being one with your soul, being connected to your soul through an open heart, but then also, to make it physical, the opening of the other chakras, which means the healing of the other chakras, which means the healing and the recalibration, the rehoning and reharmonization of all the other themes in your life. That's how you can then bring that into, through the heart, into your soul, and then that will bring it up, and will connect you through the organic and life, self-organizing, life, living Taurus that you are, to the sun and the sun and the earth, and through the heart on the horizontal level, that was the vertical, to with your partner, and then the merging, if that is held in both of them, the merging takes place on the subtle body level, so of the aura, that they're Tauruses. They can actually, the Tauruses and the light bodies can actually become one and merge. And that is then that expansion of all the chakras, and including the physical body. And that's what you were always yearning for. But how you were going about it was, of course, it also was to get to this point. But at the same time, it was not how you thought it would happen. You had to go down deep to pick up all of those dense, distorted parts of yourself by allowing that to be expressed, to be lived, yes, to be experienced. Allowing it, not suppressing it, not saying that's bad. You should be strong and deny your base desires, which of course is only going to make them stronger, and you will break at some point. Yeah. That is your experience from observing yourself and in the world. So in order to truly organically, you don't need to suppress your desires. It's actually, again, that's not the way. The way is to heal them, those desires that are pulling you down into lust, and and keeping you in that loop, and driving you where you are not free. So you are imprisoned to them, you're bound and keeping you bound. The way is to open to them, and then be aware. Watch. Okay, shame comes up. Oh, okay, watch. Okay, anger comes up, disgust comes up, self-hatred comes up. Okay, watch. Pushing the other away, all these entanglement, watch. Allow. This is what gives it space, light, and makes it come undone. And eventually, even though as you're going down, it can be more, you want more and more and more of it. And it can come in so and so many ways that for such a long time you're bound. But each time, each round, you dive in, you're in the throes of it. More and more awareness and more light is let in. And eventually you'll come to this place where you have enough wherewithal, enough scope, enough conscious awareness, and you've brought enough light into into these areas, into these chakras, that you can you are no longer their slave. And at this point, how it is for you is that now it's still coming in dreams in a subtle way. Because you notice there is now in the dreams, it's not like, oh, you get to have that experience now of the passionate lovemaking in the dreams. No, what it is that there's that part that still wants the passionate lovemaking, but there's that other part where it's like, not like that. That's not my truth anymore. And that's, you see, that comes here, that rises here. I feel that here, from the heart into the throat. And the throat is truth and is will, like your own will, your own truth. Yeah, you speak your truth, you know your truth. They're just like, no, I don't want to use the other anymore for my pleasure. I don't want to go there anymore, because then I lose a part of myself. I lose connection to the part of myself, and I get too tight. It's like there's so much more here now that wants to be embodied, felt, and seen. It doesn't fit into that. And so it's like, no, this is not, there's something it's not aligned anymore to go about it this way. And that's just simply because you don't know any other way of passion. That's because it is a memory still in your cells, and it is still like a conditioning, is that that it then still veers and moves into that direction of passion, expressed and experienced that way. Now, what is already there is that knowing, that feeling, that notion that what wants to happen is this. And I'm going like this because this is what it feels like. An opening into the back where there is space. And it really is an opening through our heart. And then the other chakras, bit by bit, they follow into the subtle bodies. And for that, and this is now the key and the clue, yeah? And this clue you have experienced when you met some of yourself, some of us, in the lucid state while your body was asleep in the bed, and you met two brethren that they came from, not from earth, and they showed themselves to you, and you remembered them. And then the other one that came and that was looking at your aura and then looked at you, and they knew that they wouldn't have much time. You couldn't hold this frequency for long. But you were just about the other one, because then you first remembered the first one who looked at you, and then the second one you remembered, and you knew there was, somehow we belong together, and there was just love, beautiful love, that a very spacious love that was there, not entangled. There's no entanglement, a love that you are not familiar with, that the physical body is not familiar with. And so you were just about to, because he was right here, you were just about to, like as a ingrained natural reaction from your physical life, to give him a hug, right? So you just wanted to give him a hug, and then that second you realized, and you sunk back, and then you woke up and you remembered. And that moment showed you felt it, you knew it, you realized it. That the going into the physicality of giving a hug, which means also merging or getting closer to them, actually made you fall out, made you not be able to, as you were before, split seconds before, being in each other's subtle body love field. Because the moment we focus into the physicality, our attention, our focus is on the haptical, on the physical body, and it is then pulled out of the subtle bodies. Now, this is also because you're in the process of still remembering yourself, of learning again to feel yourself on the higher frequencies, in the higher frequencies, how your body expands and continues, and how you continue in a finer level. And the more we can feel the subtle bodies, we have 7 subtle bodies, the more we can feel them, we can also then, of course, it becomes, we have the potential, and it goes into such an intensity that we can feel every single of these 7 subtle bodies in a very visceral way, that it is almost like it's physical, and it's as good as it is physical. And if we say as good, because it's intense enough. Yeah, intense. It is strong enough. Yeah. It is not anymore that, oh, the physical is better because I feel more. That's what we want to say. And as the remembering of ourselves on these finer, more subtle layers, through our focus being more within, on our soul, and also on then the the sensation. That's what we want to say, exactly. The sensation becomes almost as strong as in the physical body. Maybe even as strong, but I'm not sure about that, because it still is, in the sense that no lucid dream, no matter how lucid it is the same, exactly the same, well, it is not the same density, so it is not the same intensity as when it is actually in the physical. But there's not that much difference, and at the same time, it's enough. And at the same time, when this is this process is matured at a certain point, it includes, we can have it all at the same time. It includes the physical body, and this is where we're getting to. So it's like we have to bring the focus, and that is out of the root. So the root is still included, but it's not the main violin. It doesn't play as we were conditioned, that the root chakra in the lovemaking plays the main violin. and everything has to dance to its tune, so to speak. It's the leader, yeah? That shifts, that the leader becomes the heart. And then the soul is involved now, and we become more aware in when we are, first we do it, not we do it with ourselves, but we experience it in ourselves. As we embody more soul, we become more aware of our subtle bodies, and we travel with them more then we become more lucid in the dreams and so forth. And we become more sensitive also when we go outside. We can feel the birds when they fly through our aura. It's like, it's a beautiful, like as if they're petting us, like their wings flying through our aura. It feels so nice. And you can feel them too, how it feels nice for them too. So it's like, yeah. And so the nice things, as we get more sensitive, they become, we pick up more on the beauty and have more joy in that. At the same time, it's also difficult still in the structural and system that we live in, that is so toxic and so polluted and so loud with all the machine noise and all of this. Then we get more sensitive to that as well. So it's not exactly that the system is set up so that we actually get more and more callous and withdraw more and more into the physical body and get more and more numb because it's so harsh, so that we don't open up to the finer, subtle senses. Yes. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the hieros gamos. Okay, so just to finish that off, you say, why couldn't I have experienced that once? We say, first of all, it wasn't possible. Second of all, if you would have, it would have just kept you more in the addiction of it. It would have kept you locked into the physical body more. And what you were really yearning for, which is something that you didn't understand yet, that you weren't aware of yet, was the merging with your soul. Yeah. And then as you merge with your soul, and just a being just came in. Oof. It's beautiful. Then what also leaves and lets go is that need, that longing, that need, that hunger. There is no more a hunger of the flesh, because then the flesh, the physicality, is no longer ruled. So when it's no longer ruled by the root chakra, right? That is in lust. And it is in lust because it is seeking, because it's not connected to all the other chakras in the heart and aligned, because it's so heavy and dense. So if we healed enough to a certain percentage within the root chakra, then it can realign, and it doesn't play, it's not so addicted, and it doesn't play the first violin, and and then it can come into harmony, and then it like releases our focus out of there into the heart and into our soul, and it becomes, there's not that there's not that long, like, hunger and longing anymore. So we have remembered enough of ourselves, so we came out of the forgetting. That's for the getting, for the need. We came out of the need that released us. It relinquished. Yes. its grip on us. Yes. And then we are enjoying ourselves as we are. There is no need anymore. And the heart grows, and this. It's no longer this, it's this. So we speak truth. Our heart comes through our speech. Yes. We share. And we love. We spread love. And so one day then, when we are full in ourselves and enjoying just the being of who we are, then there is no more need. Anyways, there's no more sexual need. And just to be clear, this is not better than, okay? It's the process, and every stage of it has its purpose. So this is not better than, not to judge yourself when you are still, or the parts of yourself that are still perhaps longing and feel need. Sometimes, no matter what it is, no matter what addiction it is. The dissolution of it is to always hold space for it and love it, and to be aware. That's giving it space, and that's how it can breathe and relax, and eventually enough light comes in that it just, the charge dissipates because it comes back, right? It finds its upspin again. Yes. From being, the charge is because it's held down by the inverted spin. That is the root of it. And then there is in the resonance, there will be another and then we can experience two wholes. So because when you become whole, you don't need another. That doesn't mean that you don't enjoy the feeling of love, and also the feeling of sharing that love, and to be in love in the sense of also that romantic love, that where you merge in the physical. It doesn't mean that you don't want that anymore. So you're open to it, but you don't seek it anymore. It comes naturally, and when the time is then right for wherever you're at. And, when then two wholes come together, so two that have, to a certain degree, remembered themselves, their true selves, their souls, and embodied their souls. And that means when the soul embodies, the soul can descend into the body because you've made the vessel pure, because you've healed so much of yourself already. And it also means that the physical body is vibrating higher, so that's the ascension of the physical body, and that also means your senses are inhabiting. There's someone definitely here. Your senses are inhabiting more. You have more senses in the subtle realms, yeah. And then you can actually merge. Two can actually become one on a higher frequency level of themselves, on a energetically, they actually, the auras, the toruses actually become one. And that then, if this happens in the physical, as they physically make love, well, this is the thing with the hieros gamos. They don't even have to, as is shared, for example, from Morgan Lee and Todd Medina, this beautiful pair, twin soul pair. And then there's also Shekinah and Sananda, twin ray. They call themselves twin ray, because they're also twins. So Morgan and Todd, they share that they, most of the time, they didn't even physically make love, but they were guided to simply lie on the bed and just put their chakras together, hand chakras together, and that was enough. And then their soul bodies were making love, and they were guided to do this. This is now my take on it, is because if they would have gone into the what was conditioned, what was familiar, directly, stay always with the physical lovemaking, then the attention would not have been able to hold all their other selves, and they, as they shared, they felt everything totally physical, visceral, when their light bodies, when their higher selves were making love. And it was all kinds of versions of their higher selves, and the higher self is the soul cluster, the soul family, how the fractal, how the soul, the geometry of how the soul fractals, and I have talked about that, how, of the structure of that. And so all of those soul aspects were making love, all the way up to a level where they were aspects within, a higher dimension, where their souls are dragons, and even the dragons were making love, So this would not have been possible if they would have kept their focus within their physical bodies and stayed there in that familiar way. So they had to open up and go into that meditative state, and it was, the most fulfilling and amazing lovemaking they have. This is what they said, that they have ever experienced. Now, that doesn't mean that they couldn't also then, after having opened up all these channels and reconnected and been made familiar with these energies, that they can also practice to hold this, because they were also getting sick. They had like sick bowls next to their beds because the frequency was so high. And that doesn't mean that they cannot then also, which they also did, physically merge, but they had made this space. They had reconnected their currents to not fall into the same patterns, right? That pattern where it's so familiar to focus into the first chakra. They had brought that back and made that current spin into a familiarization of how that it naturally will not veer and simply go out, that in the old way, I say the old way, in 3D way, in the 3D way, that the energy goes out through the root, but that it naturally is it picks up the next current, the next torus, the next hot, the next torus, through the subtle bodies, and through, then, this is how it is. The babushka dolls, torus within torus, all those higher versions of ourselves, and then it's the vertical, and then it's also the the clusters, the soul families, which are soul groups, the monads and the avatars and so the soul groups, and that's the horizontal. And that's how we spread our love, we spread our unity, we spread our light, and we bring it also into this vessel. And Sananda and Shekinah, the information I got from two different places is that apparently they don't even physically make love. At least that's also what they said in an interview with Todd. That I think they even said that they never even kiss. I think they even said that. and when I heard that, I was like, what? But I'm starting to get an idea of how that is. And now I come back to this experience where I was meeting my two star brethren in the lucid state. So this was a different dimension where I met them. I remembered them. And it was just absolutely blissful, and we were totally connected. And the moment I wanted to give him a physical hug, I felt I lost it. I'm like, because it was actually diminishing, and I lost the connection, I lost the spin, and I woke up. Because this was also, of course, first of all, so far, I can only hold these moments of such high frequency and lucidity not very long. And second of all, it was also, I have to wake up so I can remember every part of it, because these are very important keys and clues that then come together and make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. Come together for the understanding that gives that clear seeing, right? That seeing from the bottom of the sea, from the bottom of our heart chalice. That's the clear seeing. And that is also the clear seeing then through, which allows the clear seeing through the third eye. And yes, because seeing is not just seeing as in the sight, it's also the understanding, which comes through the heart. That's the scope of it. So the heart is the bottom of the heart. That's what makes it coherent. That's what makes that sound coherent. So also that data that is coming through the ocular nerve is, there's no distortion in the lens. There's no distortion in the bending of the light. That's the clear seeing. Without the heart connection, we cannot see clear. We cannot understand what we see. Yeah. So now the last part that we wanted to touch upon, which was also your question pertaining to hieros gamos. Okay. A little shift in the sitting. So you asked us, how is it then possible that, as for example, John Whitberg, his experience in the SSP programs, when he was, as he says with his own words, having sex with ETs, or also Daryl James's experience in the SSP when he was making love with a woman from, who was his partner from Taygeta, and they were both expressing or sharing how that was also called hieros gamos, and how it was different from the lovemaking in on Earth with another person. That in that every time they went out of body, so it didn't take long, and they would leave the bodies together, and they were like, then it wasn't even about sex anymore. It was just like the most amazing feeling was being in that space with each other, and like being free of the physical body, and freely traveling in space. And then it's also beyond space and beyond time. so that a lot of time can pass and you can come back into the body, and a very short period of time has passed only. And you asked us, well, how is this possible? Doesn't it only happen, when you're after clearing up and being whole and healing all of your, clearing all your chakras and not having any distortions, not holding the so much trauma anymore, and not having any lust. And definitely they were both, at least John was like talking about horny people. There was lots of horny people, and including himself. And so how can that be that then they have at the same time they can so connect into the subtle bodies that they can leave each other's body, each leave their body and merge. So this, okay, that was your question. And also, can it not only happen when you're like completely whole within yourself, and then only with your ain true love, like that, where it's like totally open, the heart chakra. Okay, so we will explore this now. Because for example, John was talking about that it was just about sex, so that there were multiple partners, and mutually, but it was there were a lot of these like looking for closets, as he said, or just where there wasn't necessarily love involved, but there was an attraction and a liking, and that was enough. Or not love, but at least not this deep love, heart connection. Yeah. Okay, can you speak to that, please? Now, we first have to establish two differences here. The first one is that you are on Earth and they were in space, on different planets and out in space. The second one is that they were in a higher frequency. They were not in the same density as your body is in here. And the third part of it is that they are also, their souls are star seeds. So they are on a soul level familiar with this. Yes. The fourth part about it is that their partners were ETs. So in the case of James, it was this Taigetan woman. And in the case of John, many different ETs. Yeah. But these ETs, they were of higher density. First of all. Second of all, they are familiar with this, with their currents not flowing in this fallen way, where the root chakra, where everything like culminates, and where the root chakra plays the first violin, everything culminates there, and then the discharge only happens like even into more density and outwards, outside of the spin of the currents, and not into the upward spin. So their conditioning, let's say, or familiarity, how their spin was naturally already the connection with the soul. They hadn't lost it like that, and into the upward chakras, and that was strong enough. First of all, so that was very strong. Second of all, John and James were the star seeds, so they have soul memory of this. And third of all, they have abilities. So both James and John have very pronounced, for example, telepathic abilities. Let's just do that. Let's just take that, the telepathic abilities, which is an indication of a very strong connection into one of these subtle bodies, which is into the subtle body realm, that never was cut off. Quite the contrary, it was encouraged, and it was, kept alive through their life. So it was practiced. And this is all where the physical body is connected still into the soul body, and that gives you these abilities, because it embodies that the soul at that level is telepathic, can fly, is completely empathic, has the ability, and then all these other bodies where there is the clairvoyance and the ability to look into timelines, the ability to, you don't read in others, that's the telepathic ability, the ability to see with the third eye, the ability to then remote view, to travel, because that is the traveling on the inside, on the energetic, through the soul streams, through the grid lines. That's traveling either, there's different ways. Let's not get into that. That's a very big field, how that is possible. But they had that. This is what they have in common. So all of these factors, and then also both of them have a very good heart. They are both men that you can feel, because you are, you're the empath that you are, strong, intuitive, empathic abilities that you have. They are they have a very big heart. And so that is also added. That strong, coherent field. Yes. A lot of compassion. Yes. So all of this is what made that possible, that experience. Okay. So naturally, it is more difficult for someone who is picking up, has been here for a very long time, is born into very, very, very dense and root chakra distorted DNA, where the abilities have been blocked and capped, like it is, for most people on Earth. And even though we don't need to necessarily get into that. There is a difference between a soul that didn't evolve from Earth, which is your soul. Your soul originates not from Earth. However, at the same time, so you could say you're a starseed, but at the same time, you know that you've been here for a very, 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 very long time. Yeah, so that, that then also makes a difference to a soul that hasn't been here that long and, doesn't come from Earth, yeah. And then there's also, again, of course, differences to the souls that have evolved from Earth, and where this ascension is the first time. but we're all, as we are on earth, that is ascending, we are all moving into the direction of this that you call hieros, gamos, which is a true merging. Yes, a true merging. And this is also, to now finish it off, in the Egyptian mystery schools, in the book that you've read about it, Initiation by Elizabeth Haig, how it was the intention of the in Egypt, the mystery schools, initiation schools, I wanted to say, the initiation of the Pharaoh's daughter. She is remembering being this Pharaoh's daughter, and she is relaying her memory of this and of her initiation. And it was about not getting lost and not falling into the flesh and not being then ruled by the flesh. And then it's like a prison. It's like you're stuck, and it's not easy then because once you're like locked into the body and your currents are, okay, this is a bigger topic which will make a whole other video because it ties into Adam and Eve. Because once your currents are they don't flow naturally in this life-giving way again, because you forgot yourself, you forgot your higher self, and then you lose that pure, strong connection into your higher self. You lose that soul embodiment to a certain degree. And when that the desire goes into the lust, and then that goes into the root, the root chakra, where the exchange doesn't happen, the merging doesn't happen anymore over the soul, over the Taurus, where it can truly happen. But then it becomes this desire and need to merge with the other on the physical level, and that will never be truly satisfied. But once that is, it's like almost like the rail. What I see is when the rails are like the railroad tracks, when they are, when those currents are like flowing in the other direction, where it goes out instead of in and up, that's like an anchor into the physicality, and that makes you denser, and that denses also down all those finer soul, those finer abilities, those spiritual, exactly, the spiritual abilities. Yes, okay, good. So now we will leave it at that. That's the conclusion. Okay.